A total of 159,345 crimes were reported in New Jersey in 2023, according to the New Jersey State Police. This translates to a 1 in 465 chance of being a victim of violent crime, and a 1 in 89 chance of experiencing a property crime in New Jersey. Some New Jersey cities experience disproportionately high levels of crime. 10. Newark. Newark's overall crime rate is higher than the national average, with 29 crimes per 1,000 residents compared to the national average of 26 per 1,000. The rate of violent crime in Newark is higher than the national average. In 2022, there were 520 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, compared to the national average of 406. Violent crime has seen slight increases in recent years. Compared to 2021, there were 12% more violent crimes in 2022. Property crime has seen a more significant increase in recent years, rising by 34% from 2021 to 2022. 5,539 property crimes were reported in 2022, an increase from 2021. 9. Bridgeton. Bridgeton, unfortunately, has a higher crime rate than both the national and state averages. Bridgeton's overall crime rate is roughly 67% higher than the national average and significantly higher than the New Jersey average. As of 2022, Bridgeton's violent crime rate sits at around 691 per 100,000 residents. This means that a Bridgeton resident has a 1 in 143 chance of being a victim of violent crime each year, considerably higher than the national average of 379 per 100,000. And the New Jersey state average of 244 per 100,000. Bridgeton has historically grappled with higher than average property crime rates. In 2022, Bridgeton saw 720 property crimes per 10,000 residents, exceeding the national average of 27.75, and ranking among the highest in New Jersey. This translates to about a 1 in 14 chance of experiencing a property crime, compared to the national 1 in 38. 8. Vineland. Vineland's total crime rate sits roughly 30% above the national average. This translates to approximately 14 daily crimes per 100,000 residents. Vineland has a higher than average violent crime rate compared to both the national average and the state of New Jersey. 758 per 100,000 residents, 23.9% higher than the national average, and 65.5% higher than the New Jersey average. Vineland's property crime rate is 31.1% higher than the national average, and 10.2% higher than the New Jersey state average. This translates to 2,563 property crimes per 100,000 residents, compared to the national average of 1,952, and the state average of 2,324. The most common property crime in Vineland is larceny, which includes theft of personal property like wallets, purses, and bicycles. There were 1,784 larcenies reported in Vineland in 2021. 7. Elizabeth. Elizabeth's overall crime rate is approximately 30% higher than the national average, and significantly higher than 92% of other New Jersey municipalities. In 2022, approximately 4,620 total crimes were reported in the city, translating to roughly 37 crimes per 1,000 residents. The chance of becoming a victim of any crime in Elizabeth is 1 in 27. Elizabeth's violent crime rate is roughly 30% higher than the national average. In 2023, there were approximately 1,244 reported violent crimes, translating to 880 per 100,000 residents. Elizabeth's property crime rate is 26.6% higher than the national average. This translates to roughly 2,952 property crimes per 100,000 residents. On average, 9.37 property crimes occur in Elizabeth every day. Residents have a 1 in 30 chance of becoming a victim of property crime in Elizabeth. 6. Asbury Park. According to various sources, Asbury Park boasts crime rates significantly higher than both the national and New Jersey state averages. Sources like Area Vibes report a violent crime rate 191.6% higher than the national average, and a property crime rate 85.4% higher. Violent crime rates are higher than property crime rates, with sources like Neighborhood Scout reporting a chance of violent crime being 1 in 73. Asbury Park, presents a complex picture when it comes to property crime rates. 3,623 property crimes per 100,000 residents, significantly higher than the national average of 2,409. 1 in 28 chance of being a victim of property crime. Ranked in the bottom 10% of all U.S. cities for property crime according to Area Vibes. 5. Irvington. Based on FBI data, Irvington's crime rate is higher than 89% of other cities and towns in the state. According to Neighborhood Scout, the property crime rate in Irvington for 2022 was 17 per 1,000 residents. This means that there were an estimated 17 property crimes for every 1,000 people living in the city. Burglary is the most common property crime in Irvington, with a rate of 5.7 per 1,000 residents in 2022. This is significantly higher than the national average of 2.6 per 1,000 residents. In 2022, Irvington reported 570 violent crimes, with a rate of 9.40 per 1,000 residents. This is higher than the national average. While overall crime rates have been decreasing since 2015, the rate of decrease has slowed down in recent years. 4. Atlantic City. According to Area Vibes, the city's crime rate is 318.4% higher than the national average. This means that you are more likely to be a victim of crime in Atlantic City than in most other cities in the United States. Atlantic City, unfortunately, struggles with a significantly higher property crime rate. The city records 8,033 property crimes per 100,000 residents, exceeding the national average by a staggering 311%. This translates to a roughly 1 in 13 chance of experiencing property crime for residents, a far cry from the national average of 1 in 40. Larceny theft accounts for about 60% of all property crimes in the city. The city's violent crime rate is 357.2% higher than the national average. This means that you are more likely to be the victim of a violent crime. 3. Paterson. Paterson has a complex relationship with crime. While it's not among the most dangerous cities in the U.S., its crime rates are higher than the national average, and significantly higher than most of New Jersey. Paterson's total crime rate sits 12% above the national average, but interestingly, its violent crime rate is 11% lower. This could suggest a higher prevalence of property crime compared to violence. The estimated likelihood of facing any crime in Paterson is 1 in 29. The chance of experiencing specifically violent crime is 1 in 105. Paterson's property crime rate sits 32% above the national average, translating to a 1 in 60 chance of becoming a victim. Motor vehicle theft is the most common property crime in Paterson, with a rate of 34.5 per 1,000 residents in 2022. 2. Trenton. Trenton's overall crime rate is 26.3% higher than the national average. This means you're statistically more likely to be a victim of crime in Trenton, compared to the rest of the U.S. The violent crime rate is particularly high, with 1,363 incidents per 100,000 residents, nearly double the national average. This translates to a 1 in 75 chance of becoming a victim of violent crime. Trenton's property crime rate exceeds the state average of 1,608 per 100,000 residents, placing it among the higher-risk cities within New Jersey. Larceny theft is the most prevalent property crime in Trenton, accounting for approximately 70% of all reported incidents. This includes shoplifting, pickpocketing, purse snatching, and other forms of theft without force. 1. Camden. Camden has a long and complicated relationship with crime. While there have been significant reductions in recent years, the city still grapples with a higher crime rate than the national average, particularly violent crime. Camden's overall crime rate of 35 per 1,000 residents. This means you have a 1 in 28 chance of experiencing any type of crime in Camden. Camden's violent crime rate of 13.78 per 1,000 residents remains much higher than the national average of 4.0 per 1,000. This translates to a 1 in 72 chance of experiencing a violent crime. Camden's property crime rate of 21.69 per 1,000 residents.